Hey everyone, it's Casey Calnan here, your podcast director with the Healthcare Experience Foundation's Healthcare Experience Matters podcast. Joining us today is Elisa Grace. She's the Vice President of Coaching here at the Healthcare Experience Foundation. And with the HXF's Foundations and Inclusive Leadership Certificate program approaching rapidly in the beginning of August, we wanted to hop on the microphones here and talk a little bit about what's happening right now with DEI. So language is evolving, everything seems to be changing and moving. And Elisa, I'm going to let you take it away here. What's going on with DEI?
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Casey. Great question. There's so much going on in the space, and everybody is well aware. All you have to do is pick up a newspaper, and you can see that diversity, equity, and inclusion, or as its common vernacular known name is DEI, is really under fire. And there's a lot changing, and we're all trying to grapple with it within the industry and figure out how it lands, and so that we keep the major tenants, and we also keep the outcomes in mind, and we start looking at some of the terminology itself.
Yeah, and I want to explore that more with you. Tell us
Mhm.
kind of about the definition, a
Yeah.
construction and a theoretical idea here. What are your thoughts on that?
Sure, sure. I think one of the things that we're talking about is, are we going to, and let's just land right on it, are we going to lose the term DEI? Are we going to stop using it? It's under fire in terms of school and its questions in healthcare. And so what's going to happen with the term? And some of my research is really pointed to, well, what does that term mean? DEI is really a construct. It's not actually the only meaning that you can attribute to it is the meaning that we give it. So by that, what I mean is, if you think about diversity, equity, inclusion, it has meaning today that it wouldn't even have existed 100 years ago. There's like a history of ideas in terms of its evolution. And so when you start thinking about it, sometimes we think that terminology should stay the same. But there's so many factors that come into play when words actually take on meaning. And we just want to be careful about what we're owning. The construct is theoretical. It has the only meaning because we attribute something to it. When I say DEI, you have a response. And unfortunately, lately, the response, a visceral response to the word or to the acronym DEI, is pretty negative. And so we have to address, how do we make sure, again, that we keep the foundational tenets, that we're moving things forward. And I'm not so sure that we want to get hung up on the specific terminology or the exact wording. We want to keep our eyes focused on the outcome. We want to keep it linked to mission, vision, and values. We want to keep it linked to doing some of the great work that has already been done in the DEI space.
Yeah, and when we had talked about what we were going to discuss today before we hit record, we were going to try to make it personal here. And we
Yeah.
wanted to have you discuss a little bit about your personal naming history and also how that ties back into what you've learned when it comes to the importance of self identification.
Okay, okay, thank you. Well, for personal, I mean, you can look at me and immediately you also will have a reaction. Is she African American woman? Is she educated? Is she not? We just naturally within our space. And so for me personally, when I think about how words and how they evolve, my mom's side of my family, so maternal side, is Native American, and my paternal side, my dad's side, is African American. So I've got these two blended streams. But if you think about just even the words, if I went down to my dad's family, we were called slaves, so descendants of slaves. At one point, we were called Negro. We were called some other words that we're not going to record here just for sake of not memorializing them, but there's a lot of derogatory terms. We were called colored. I've been called mulatto, so there's like this whole thing that evolved. And then at some point, we started talking about African American or Black, and we got into some debates about that. But my point is that the terminology, the words change in the context of history and the context of social and political structures, geo and economics. So the words themselves changed over time. The meaning of who I am has not changed. So I am still exactly who I am. Same on my mom's side. So if we think about it in terms of Indian, that term came because Columbus got confused on a map and thought he was in the wrong place. So Indian, Native American, Aleutian, indigenous, so again, the terminology has continued to change over time. And I'm just calling it out as an opportunity within the DEI space that we continue to focus on the things that really are important. So if I took the acronym and I changed it around just a little bit, that D for me really becomes about dignity and respect. That's really what we're trying to do. We're all human. And how do we address our human experience and different differences? The E in terms of economics. I want the same opportunity to be able to command the same salary, man, woman, black, white, able-bodied, whatever. I want that same opportunity. So I think it's just a different way of looking at it. So for me personally, okay, great, Elisa, but talk to us about yourself. So my identification is that I'm a woman, and I'm a woman of multi cultures. And so I hold to the Native American culture, and I identify as a Native American woman. I identify as an African American woman. So I've gone through my own labeling so that I'm not subject to the labels that other people have ascribed to me. I'm subject to my own self-identification. I think that's an opportunity for all of us. What do we want to be known for? Called, identified, she, he, us, they, them, and making that known and aware to other people.
Yeah. And I know that, you were also wanting to mention that, all of this to say, this journey to understand and respect our differences, there's this leader challenge within that. Is that accurate to say,
Yeah,
tell us more
for,
about that.
For sure. I think, so there's an individual challenge for ourselves, understanding kind of what's in our shadow and our influence and the points that we can make and the dent on this planet to make it better for humans. But I also think that in terms of leadership, it's a huge leadership challenge to really address that within every organization. We've got subcultures, and we have to learn the language of cultural inclusion, and we have to learn the language of differences and sameness, and equity, and emotional intelligence. So all those pieces, that prism almost that comes together that says, as a leader, our challenge is always on additional growth and development and evolution. And that's what's being called for at this time in this space. What we know enough of is that the old way of doing things is just simply not working. And so we also have to flex our leadership muscle. We have to be open into unlearning some of the things that we've learned that no longer fit. We have to relearn. So we now have to go out and gather new skills, and then we have to figure out how to apply those. And so I think that's where HXF comes in, is that it's a great opportunity then to kind of get with thought leaders and to also kind of create some peer-to-peer accountability for leadership within the organizations and within healthcare as a whole.
Talk to me about the importance overall of taking time to get trained and educated on these issues. I mean, trying to tie this back to
Mhm.
this inclusive leadership certificate program from the Healthcare Experience Foundation that's coming up in August. Why is it so vital that healthcare workers in particular, are trained up on these issues?
Sure, sure. It is an investment in time. I think it's another thing that we should just call out and acknowledge, so that when you take yourself out of your normal work environment and you put yourself back into a learning mode in a learning environment, it is an investment in time. But what I think the gain is that it's one of multiplication. So where you're adding in that, yes, I'm going to devote time to learn and practice this new skill and kind of level up on my muscle around a very tough topic. The impact is multiplication. You know, that if you grab this and you take this 8 hours of learning and then you apply it out, it has exponential impact within your organization. So the influence point of an enlightened leader who then is influencing other leaders and direct reports really can shape an organization. So I think it's an investment that has such huge returns that it really is worth taking the time out of your already busy schedule so that you can save some time down the road. The other thing that I would say, Casey, too, is I think we also have to look at what's the cost of not doing something. So there's a big cost that we'll have to pay eventually if we actually don't take the time to really invest in learning other ways of thinking, doing, and being. Our call is to help people. You know, at the end of the day, call it patient engagement, physician engagement, call it health experience, call it whatever you want. But our call is to help people. And I think this is some learning and acumen that can kind of grow that people helping muscle.
This has been a really important discussion. We've been joined by Elisa Grace. She's the Vice President of Coaching with the Healthcare Experience Foundation. As we mentioned, that inclusive leadership certificate program, more information on that will be in the description of today's interview.
Awesome.
So, Elisa, thank you again for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you, Casey. It's been my privilege. Have a great day and see you in August.